hopeful we'll get a cabinet nominee confirmed. As you know, there's a lot of committee action today. I'll be filing cloture on Secretary of State designee Tillerson, which will ripen next week. And then we'll, in a more fulsome way, move into approving cabinet appointments, both controversial and non-controversial, beginning next week. John?
Along those same lines, earlier today, the Senate committees voted out Secretary designee Chao, Governor Nikki Haley, and Dr. Ben Carson. Just to give you a context for the obstruction and foot dragging that Democrats are imposing upon this new president and his administration. At this point in President Obama's administration, 5 days into the administration, there were 14 cabinet members confirmed. So far, there are 3 under President Trump. There's just simply no excuse for this. 12 of the nominees have all of their paperwork completed, and as the majority leader indicated, once they're voted out of committee, they're available for floor action. But this is simply attempting to litigate or relitigate the election. Our Democratic friends need to get over the fact that the election's over, and now we have the responsibility of governing, hopefully together. But instead, so far, they've chosen just to obstruct and foot drag. And to me, one of the most shameful and reckless parts of this is the way in which they delayed the confirmation of an important member of President Trump's national security cabinet. You'll recall General Mattis and General Kelly were confirmed early, but Director of the CIA, Pompeo, was carried over the weekend for debate time, which we offered last Friday, but which was not agreed to until Monday. So we need to get our Democratic colleagues to get over the fact that the election's done and gone, and they need to get with the program when it comes to approving these non-controversial nominees and give the president the benefit of the cabinet that he deserves in order to start governing for the benefit of the country.
At the Senate Commerce Committee this morning, we reported out 2 nominees, Wilbur Ross and Elaine Chao, both of which are non-controversial and should be cleared for floor action as quickly as possible. But as my colleagues have pointed out, I mean, it's pretty clear this is nothing more than playing political games with these nominees, and nothing less than that. You know, obviously, the president won an election. He deserves to get his people in place, and we want to be able to work with them. And part of being able to get to work right away is getting your team out there. The Democrats, as is pointed out, on day one gave President Obama, or Republicans I should say, gave President Obama 7 nominees, and at the end of the 2-week period he had almost all of his nominees in place. We got 2 on day 1, and everything now is a fight to try and get these nominees put in place. But they will get there eventually. The Democrats can play games, but it's not going to end up in any result other than it's just going to drag this process out and make it harder for the president and his team to begin the process of governing this country. When they get there, we're going to work with this administration, the House and the Senate. We're committed to repealing, replacing Obamacare. We're committed to reforming the tax code. We're committed to reducing the regulatory burden that is making it so hard in this country for American businesses to create jobs and grow the economy. And we are committed to keeping Americans safe in what is an increasingly dangerous world. Those are goals that are shared. Those are issues on which we are united, and we're looking forward to rolling up our sleeves and going to work to make them become a reality. And we're going to get a chance to discuss some of those issues a little bit further this week when we go up to Philadelphia and have an opportunity to meet with our House colleagues and with the new team in the administration.
President Trump has nominated an all-star team for his cabinet. And as the chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee, I want to just focus on one of those, and that's the nominee to head the Environmental Protection Agency. It's an agency which has been on a regulatory rampage for the last 8 years, with so many regulations that cost people their jobs, impacted states in terms of income to the states. The EPA has lost its way. Scott Pruitt is the right person to be in charge of that agency, an agency that needs to be modernized, reformed, improved. People on both sides of the aisle have expressed confidence in Attorney General Pruitt because as Attorney General in his home state of Oklahoma, he has actually protected the environment, at the same time strengthened the economy, and stood up for states' rights. When you take a look at EPA nominees for Bill Clinton, for George W. Bush, and for Barack Obama, each of them was confirmed in January. Each was confirmed in January. We're going to move ahead swiftly with Scott Pruitt's votes in committee. We all want clean air and clean water and clean land, and we can do it without hurting the economy at the same time.
On Friday, this country witnessed yet again the peaceful transition of power. I was fortunate enough to have dozens of Colorado students watching the inauguration as they admired our Constitution at work. Unfortunately, around that same time, though, a less admirable action was taking place in the Senate, as Chuck Schumer and others decided that they would stall the nominations to the president's national security team. The fact is, at this point in time, and previous presidents, dozens of cabinet members had been put in place by the 5 days after the inauguration. In this case, a key person, the CIA, Mike Pompeo, was denied confirmation. It's unacceptable that politics have taken a front seat while national security has taken a back seat, and it must change. If you listen to the committee confirmation hearings that are taking place, some people seem to be more interested in cutting horses and hay bales on their nominees than they are in whether or not they will do the right job for this country. Stop the silliness, stop the circus. Let's move on with the business of this country.
Yeah.
Senator Schumer talked to the president last night about infrastructure. At a press conference, they talked about an infrastructure plan. I know that infrastructure is something you're concerned about. There's a major bridge between Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, which is one of the most imperiled bridges in the country. When you hear the plan that Senator Schumer talks about, and you hear what the president has talked about in infrastructure, is that the type of thing you think you can get on board with, or are you concerned about the spending impacts?
Yeah, let me tell you what I don't think we ought to do. I don't think we ought to borrow almost $1 trillion and plus up a bunch of federal accounts, incur a lot of additional debt, and don't build any projects to speak of. So I can tell you what I'm against is a replication of the Obama stimulus package in 2009. With regard to what we could be for, my understanding is the administration has a team who are putting together a proposal that we can all take a look at. That includes people both inside the administration and I think the Secretary of Transportation, and they're going to come up with a proposal. We'll take a look at it. I hope it will be something credibly paid for. We have a $21 trillion debt, but I think we would all like to tackle infrastructure in a credible way, and hopefully that's what they'll recommend. I can just tell you that on the whole issue of election fraud, which our Democratic colleagues always argue is just fiction, there are people literally in jail in Kentucky for this kind of activity. It does occur. There are always arguments on both sides about how much, how frequent, and all the rest. But most states have done a better job. Most states have done a better job on this front. But the notion that election fraud is a fiction is not true.
But are there 3 to 5 million of legal ballots?
Yeah. Yeah, I anticipate what we're going to get from the president is a highly qualified, well-credentialed, conservative jurist. And the president has indicated with the list that you refer to the types of people we can expect to be sent up. I don't know that he's committed to that particular list. but I anticipate a really well-qualified nominee.
Mr. Leader, now that we know that the nominee is coming, in the next few days, do you have any sense?
I don't know any more than what I heard.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
timing is
Yeah.
really talking about timing. Do you have any sense of when in the year coming up you would like to see that nomination wrapped up? And given whatever timing you're thinking about, do you have a concern that the core argument the Supreme Court needs 9 justices, not 8, might be undermined by the past year's experience here in the Senate?
No, there's a big difference between not approving a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of a highly contested presidential election and the beginning of a 4-year term. So let's take a look at Clinton and Obama with Supreme Court vacancies in their first terms. Under Clinton, Ginsburg and Breyer, no filibuster. No filibuster. In other words, no one required us to get 60 votes. Under Obama, Sotomayor and Kagan, no filibuster. That's apples and apples. First term, new president, Supreme Court vacancy. What we hope would be that our Democratic friends will treat President Trump's nominees in the same way that we treated Clinton and Obama.
Do you have an idea of when you would like to see that nomination voted on?
We haven't taken the first step yet. The first step will be the name coming up.
On Obamacare, sir, Senator Collins and Cassidy have introduced legislation. Is that something that you're supporting? Does that have leadership backing at this point?
Look, there are a whole lot of different ideas about how to replace Obamacare. As all of us have said repeatedly, it'll be done in consultation with the new Secretary of Health and Human Services, the new head of CMS, and active discussion among House and Senate Republicans, because we anticipate no cooperation from the other side. And so it, then be incumbent upon us meaning Republicans, to come up with a replacement. But I would remind you, I've said this before, I don't want to bore you too much, but what did Bill Clinton say last year? It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. What do the polls say? 8 out of 10 Americans want it replaced entirely or dramatically changed. If Hillary Clinton had been elected, we'd be revisiting Obamacare. If Chuck Schumer were the majority leader, we'd be revisiting Obamacare. The status quo is not acceptable. We understand that, and we're going to tackle this big problem. Thanks a lot.